Good afternoon, good morning, even perhaps. My name is Ian Schiller, and welcome to Immigration Legal Tech Conversations. Today we're going to be exploring a few different topics. I'm excited to go over those with you. Just as a note, Greg is out currently. He is on a cruise, and so he is in and out of service. And so today I'm going to be going over with you just a few of the things that we wanted to cover today. There's been really important rulings over the last month in February. If you saw our last live stream, we discussed United States versus Hepner, which is a really important case, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a moment as well. We're also going to go over the DHS's AI use cases, which is an extensive document, and you can check that out on their website, and we'll show it to you here in just a moment. And just discuss how the government is using AI, how it could apply to client work, how it could apply to immigration work. And so we'll go over all of those things. And there's some really important documents to focus on and things to just be aware of and to monitor. As you know, over the last month we've seen quite a bit of noise from the United States government and choosing who they're going to work with as far as an AI partner. And so we'll go over that and how they may be using their new partner, OpenAI, in their work. So Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, again, welcome in. Feel free to leave chats using the chat feature as well. But Immigration Legal Tech Conversations presented by Visa Law AI for immigration intelligence you can trust. And during Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, we're going to go over innovative applications and analyze how legal technology is being used as it changes every single day. And so we try to stay up to date and keep you up to date at the same time. So we'll go over a few of those things today. So let's look here and begin. As I mentioned, we discussed 2 weeks ago in Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, AI, privacy, and data usage in the wake of this case, United States versus Hepner. So to review a little bit of that, this Hepner case it's a really interesting one. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. We've got an analysis on Visa Law AI/blog if you're interested in looking at it there. But basically, the rundown is this: a federal judge in the Southern District of New York issued a landmark ruling on February 10th. So just last month. Stating that AI-generated documents are not protected by attorney-client privilege when created using consumer AI tools. This is the first ruling of its kind, and obviously has direct implications for all sorts of legal work. Working with clients especially is an important. It's important to keep in mind at this point in time, and it's one of the early rulings, and so it's very important to keep that in mind, that this is an early ruling. There could be, there certainly will be future cases to pay attention to. Give you some more details on it. Former CEO Bradley Hepner, he was a client. He's not an attorney. He was a client working in his own. Working on his own with these cases. He used a consumer tool. He used Claude, a free or personal account, to draft defense strategies and analyze evidence for his team. The court ruled documents are discoverable. They're not privileged. It's essentially like talking about your case in an elevator. It's shouting it from the rooftops even. I mean, the way that it should be thought of is if clients or you as the lawyer are using a consumer grade. This is a distinction that we need to make. A consumer grade tool, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of these, and you're using a free account, or you're using a first tier paid account. That's not an enterprise. It's not protected contractually. You would know if you have an enterprise account. It's probably something, typically this is something you would work with a sales team, or there's sort of just an extra step, an extra layer that goes into this, and we can look at some of that here in a second. or using a specific enterprise software. Visa Law is one of these softwares. Um, if you aren't using one of those enterprise grade versions versus a consumer grade, that is going to be the distinction, and that's the distinction here in this case as well. So sort of the four reasons that were outlined. It's a third-party tool, essentially. It's basically like inviting somebody in and discussing it with them. There's no attorney-client relationship that exists with that AI platform, and there's no contract outlined about how the data is going to be used. So the data in the terms of service with free and lower paid accounts, those things that get shot up into, if you input something, get shot up into a data center that is stored and trained on. So essentially, it's publishing those items. Yeah, and so with the terms of service, having review, if not many people review their terms of services, but the prompts that you put in and output, there's no reasonable expectation for confidentiality. And in this case, the client, not the attorney, was operating the AI, and they were doing it independently and voluntarily. And the Covell doctrine also did not apply. So there's many things about this that are really, really interesting. I encourage you to check out last week's outline of what was going on in that case. And I'm going to share with you here really quickly. So let me see if I can pull this up and show you a little chart to make this a little bit more, I think, clear. Let's see. So let me pull up. Sharing screens is always so difficult when you're having to do it live. So one moment. Share screen is not currently working, which is disappointing. Let's see how we can fix that. Okay, well, if we can't, that's no problem either. So I will just discuss it here 1 second. So with AI tools and data protection, let's see. We really need this screen share to get going. So one moment while I try to troubleshoot this for you so we can get this screen shared. Let's see. Here's how we can do this. Technology is an amazing thing. It only seems to work when you don't need it to, and then when you need it to, it fails you. Let's see. So if I can get this up. All right, one moment. We can do this. All right, here we go. So this is a PDF on AI tools and data protection, and so here we're going to be able to see a per provider data protection reference. So this is going to go over sort of all of the consumer. This is sort of what the staple products in AI are. So this is going to include ChatGPT from OpenAI, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and Anthropic's Claude. So as we go through this, you can see what we're looking for are the specific data protections that are available. And if essentially the way you can think about this is if it's got green, Your data can be protected. It can be used for client data. It can be used for sensitive data upload, and without having to anonymize things and make them generalized. And you can see here there's some other things. So no, not available, not recommended. Just in red, possible with restrictions. In yellow, again, there's another red, yes, training on by default. So we'll go over all that as well. So you can see here, this is OpenAI's data protection. So you can see here, when we talk about consumer grade versus business grade, oh, you're actually not saying that. Let me move on the slides here. So as you can see here, we've got OpenAI. So these are the options that you have within here. So from left to right, you can see consumer plans, business plans, an API. API is essentially servers talking to servers. It's more on the technical side, not extremely relevant probably for your use cases. But with consumer plans, you see here on the left, you've got the free plans. You open it up and you start using it on the web. And you can see on the left side, notes, terms of service, data processing agreement, and use with personal data, use with confidential data, use with professional secrets. So these are the main things that we need to pay attention to here. And throughout all of these on consumer grade plans, which is free, plus plans, you're probably paying a little bit, maybe $20 a month. I'm not familiar with exactly what their breakdowns are. And the pro plan, all of these are no. These are all of these you do not want to be uploading any sensitive data on. So this is what we mean. This is where Bradley Hepner made his mistake, is he was using a free plan with his data, and that's the pitfall. That's what we need to be paying attention to. You can see here then there are business plans, you ChatGPT Team, Enterprise, and so this is where you're going to have data processing addendums and contracts. And this is where you can then use personal data, confidential data, professional secrets. You can see there's some qualifications here. And so, yes, so that's the distinction that we need to be paying attention to. Those are the OpenAI ones, and it varies a little bit different with different companies. So we'll see here as well. Microsoft Copilot. And within here, so similar breakdown from left to right. You've got consumer options, business plans, and then again API information. So Copilot, free. You may see it if you open up Word. You probably have the Copilot little tab there that you can look at. You're going to want, again, with any of these softwares, you want the business options, and you can see here the protections that are available, that are possible in green, and the big red nose that you want to avoid when using in a professional setting. So again, these are sort of things to look out for. Google Gemini is a little bit different as well, so there's some different things to pay attention to within here. So consumer grade options, still no. That's always going to be no. So they've got an AI Studio and Developer plan as well. And the only difference between this and their consumer grades is just some here within the Gemini API and AI Studio. I'm not super familiar with what that is, but you can see there's a data processing agreement. Again, that's sort of the thing that you need to look out for if you're using any of these things in your workflows. Is you want to have some sort of agreement on data usage. And those are the things that are going to be sort of obvious if you have it and if you don't. So big red nose for Gemini, unless you've got the business or cloud version. So again, API, Gemini for Google Workspace is how you know there. And if you're using Anthropic's Claude, again, consumer grade plans, Anthropic's Claude is what Bradley Hepner was using, and that got him in trouble. So there's different plans again with Claude. There's a free version, there's a pro and a max. All of these are paid. Sort of personal options, and training is on by default for these. You can see here on the use for providers' own purposes. So they're training on your data and you don't want to use this with anything confidential, and no business applications as well within those, at least professional secrets. But there is Claude for Work. There is API, and there are quite a few. Claude is quite extensive in their enterprise options, and you can see here lots of green um, that you can use. So those are the areas to pay attention to. Yeah, that's sort of the back end of that. So if there's any questions, happy to take those as well. But that's the difference, and that's what has to be. We need to be paying attention to as far as AI and data privacy, and that's and a very important distinction for legal work as well. So that was that. I am unsure how I'm going to show you this because of the issues that we're having with screen share currently on our. We'll see if screen share is working again in just one moment. But again, I was talking about. So that's sort of for you. That's for the lawyer. That's for the clients. It's really important that if you don't have an AI policy currently, you draft one up, especially for your client intake. It's really going to be important that you provide for your clients the information, because you know the instinct to use these AI tools is going to be great for them to understand what's happening. To maybe they're trying to be helpful and help with their case, or any information that they're going to provide. There is the risk that they're going to use an AI tool and could break their client confidentiality, and we don't want that to happen. So it's important to take care of that on the front end, for your protection, for the client's protection. So important things to think about: upgrade to an enterprise tool, whether that's an immigration specific one like Visa Law AI, or just an enterprise account with whatever AI software that you are using at the time. All right, so let me see if I can share my screen. Unfortunately, I don't know why we're having screen share issues currently, which is very disappointing. Because we would like to show you these things, but there are ways around that. And I will just have to figure those out on the fly. So just give me one moment while I try to figure that out. In the meantime, hopefully everybody is doing well. And I do want to give you just some background on what we're going to talk about. And if we need to, I'll just put the links, make those available in the chat so you can sort of view those on your own time. But we're going to be talking now about how DHS is using AI and what this report that they've put out on their AI usage. They've got a very neat Excel table, which I was really hoping to show you, but let's see. Maybe if I... Very disappointing that my screen share is not working. Don't blame me. Blame my computer. Because it was working on the front end. But, so, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can get a copy of this. So let's look at this. Show you an exclusive look into... This may be difficult to see, and we'll see. We'll just have to figure out on the fly, like we're doing right now, what we can do and what we can't. So I'm going to show you an article called AI at the Gates, Agency Use of Tech and AI by a consortium of folks, including Greg Siskind, and we'll pull them up right here so you can see. So this is an exclusive first look here. You can see the authors who are doing great work. And I'm going to give you some of their insights here. So, and this may be difficult to see, but I'll read it through a little bit. So some of the key insights on how the government is using AI in their work includes the following. So first of all, the USCIS AI infrastructure. They're utilizing key AI systems to help automate the initial review of immigration benefits. So they're using an evidence classifier. And this is an internal machine learning solution built to systematically tag individual pages in high volume evidentiary types. So passports, birth certificates, things like that. And it's designed to reduce the time adjudicators spend paging through filings. Just to make them more efficient, as we a lot of the things that we use AI for to make us more efficient. They're using a thing called Immigration S. This is an advanced AI platform, and this aggregates data from the IRS, the DMV, Social Security to detect inconsistencies in job duties, salaries, and profiles across government databases. This is interesting, I think. It just in the sense that it means that we're going to have to maintain um, really high level accuracy and make sure that we're really paying attention to what we're filling out at the risk of receiving additional RFEs and things of that nature. They're also using a USCIS vetting center in Atlanta. This is called UVC. It's in Atlanta. It's a centralized AI hub launched in late 2025 that utilizes risk scoring and social media monitoring to flag cases for extended interviews or national security holds. This is, again, and it's something that we're probably all aware of, but the sort of the increased monitoring that's needed for across clients. Social media usage is an important thing to keep in mind as well. Some of the trends that are being seen are AI-driven notices practitioners across the United States are seeing changes in how communication is being affected from the USCIS and deficiencies as well. So there's a shift from RFE to NOID. Early 2026 reports are indicating that USCIS is increasing, skipping the fixable RFE stage and moving directly to intents to deny. And this signals a decrease in the benefit in the quote unquote benefit of the doubt historically afforded to applicants, and so it's something to be aware of. And it certainly we would be interested in understanding if people are seeing this on their end. The instant RFE, while RFEs historically took months, many applicants in 2026 are seeing them within 24 to 72 hours of filing. So that's fast. So this typically is indicating an intake validation error where an algorithm detected a mathematical discrepancy, such as an I864 or a missing required field before a human got to review it. Wow, and you might be hearing some thunder. There's a storm that just rolled in here in Memphis. So we've got a question here. This is a good one. Do you know which AI application USCIS uses? So this is, if I'm understanding correctly, are we asking about the application or which applications? That may be the wrong way to say it, but sort of where we're seeing this or how they're using it. If you clarify that for me, we can maybe look at that. But this kind of goes into the next thing that we're going to talk about. And another thing I wanted to show you, which is the use case identifiers report that we've got. And so I'll discuss that in just one moment. Yeah. So Claude, ChatGPT, etc. So this is an interesting question. So I don't know that we know specifically what AI they're using. they don't necessarily identify that in their use cases report that they put out. I think, well, what we know is that they're not going to be using, they shouldn't be using Anthropic per Donald Trump's sort of um, direction, right? Um, we don't think that they're using Anthropic. See, it's gotten really dark here. Sorry, the storm has just really rolled in all of a sudden here, Memphis. They shouldn't be using Anthropic according to sort of the what we've seen here over the last couple of weeks in sort of the very wow, I'm so sorry. And sort of the way that they've sort of broken ties with Anthropic is what I should say. I would it's my understanding they are probably using OpenAI's ChatGPT, but we actually probably don't know for sure necessarily what exactly they're using. If they're using a multitude, if they're using a few of them, or if they're just using one specifically. Sorry, this thunder is really freaking out my dog, so I apologize for that if you hear that. So yeah, that's a great question. Hopefully that helps answer it a little bit. So I'm going to bring up again what we're screen sharing here. So again, and this is going to be put out here very soon. This article, we'll continue to go through it a little bit. There's it's an extensive. It's 26 pages, so we won't get through all of it today. I'll do just one more section here. But the effective rebuttal strategies. When a notice feels robotic or AI driven, it's something you might be able to pick out. There are some options that you have. So, or factually disconnected is another thing that they identify from the submission. Your rebuttal needs to be forensic and explicitly human. So, step one here is sort of audit for machine error. Check if the RFE claims you failed to submit something that was actually included in the packet. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Scary. Yes, it is scary for sure. The way that they're using it. So check if the RFE claims that you failed to submit something that was actually included in the packet. So the rebuttal, do not simply resubmit the document. Use a table of contents and index of exhibits that mirrors the USCIS evidentiary classifiers expected tags. So, and in your language, state clearly, contrary to the assertion on page 2 of the RFE, the petitioner submitted blank document as exhibit in the original filing. So, just be very specific, review the mistakes and go over those. Humanize the narrative is the next step. If a case is flagged for similarity or generic language, you need to prove the individualized nature of the claim. So in the rebuttal, replace legal buzzwords with specific non-templative details. So for example, instead of using a phrase like "I will suffer extreme hardship," use specific details like, for example, my daughter's specific medical condition, blank condition requires the specialized treatment only available at blank clinic in blank city. If so, very highly specific, humanize, specify are sort of the next steps, and address the algorithmic anchor is the next step here. There's research suggesting that automation bias can lead officers to trust AI flags when the system is incorrect. This is a really interesting thing that Greg talked to me a little bit about, which is that even when these things do make it to a person, we're seeing an increase in people sort of defaulting, these adjudicators trusting and defaulting to the AI decision, because it just gets more complicated when an AI is sort of flagged something and moved it on to them, and they are then disagreeing with it. So they're often defaulting. So the rebuttal here is use a summary cover letter, which acts as a roadmap for the human in charge. Use bold headings, bullet points, all these things. The formatting sort of just guide them through these things. Help guide the tired officer's eyes is how they word it in here, from the AI generated deficiency score and towards physical presence. So be on the lookout for this. And there other things that are included here are proactive AI proofing. And so if you are interested, I'm going to put a link in here so that you can get access. This is something that we will include in our show notes as well at the end here. So I'm going to get that set up so that you can scan that and have the option of getting the show notes today. And with the show notes, you'll have we'll send all these things out sort of proactively there at the end once we conclude the show so that we can get some of these details to you. So let me get that for you now. Oop, not that one. Don't scan that one. Hold on. All right. So I'm going to put that QR code up. And so this was just a preview of this that this team has been working on. And so we will move it along. But scan that if you want to get the show notes, and we'll include some more details for this. All right. So that was just a little bit, and that because of the screen share, it's a little bit out of order of how I wanted to go about this today. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the artificial intelligence use cases first, and then go into that. But we'll have to go with that. Unfortunately, I don't have the screen share option. I really wanted to show you this extensive Excel document that DHS shared about their use cases, but I'll just give you the report on that. So let me pull that up. All right. So here's some of the key things to know about this report. And so if you go to dhs.gov/AI/use case inventory, you will find the Department of Homeland Security's artificial intelligence use case inventory. So this is a little bit about their inventory. These are all areas where they've determined high impact options for themselves. They're presumed high impact options designed to streamline their work. There's different stages that some of these things are in: pre-deployment, piloting, deployed, and retired. And so those are just the different use cases and where they sort of sit in their life cycle. And so the list here that they've provided includes a let's see. So what they have to say about it is it's available downloaded format. So they've been publishing this since 2022, but not everybody's aware of this. One of the main updates is they add what they're using, and it's really exploded over the last couple of years. These are the most common commercial AI use cases in their reporting category. So I think the important thing to note as we go over the report is there are not these are not the classified uses. These are the unclassified uses. So there's potentially more that they're doing here that we may not be aware of. Well, let's get into the high level of the report. I wonder if there's a way that I could download this it may take too much time, so I'm not going to be too concerned about it. But let me check here. What an awful time for screen share to not work on our on our streaming platform. All is well. So let's get into the use cases here. So this is the overview. The inventory, which is available again on DHS/AI /use case inventory. This is sort of the overview. It contains 236 AI use cases across 12 of the bureaus. Of those, 111 are actively deployed. There are 86 that are in pre-development phases. some that are running in pilots, and 31 that have been retired. As I look at the use cases, and I'll call out a few specifically here in a moment for you. The one thing that we see is that Customs and Border Patrol protection, and border protection, excuse me, um, they're using it the most, or they have the most use cases, I should say. Um, there are 83 use cases for them, which is more than a third of the inventory. Behind them is ICE, and they've got 50 use cases that they're using. Yes, thank you to Barlow Niffin 6485. I think, unfortunately, Barlow, I think this is one of the things that I'm running into. We can't share these things, the links across all of our platforms. But yeah, again, if we can share that with each other, that's always a great thing. If you want to scan the QR code, we'll put the links in there as well in our follow up. TSA has 26, USCIS has 23, FEMA's got 22, interestingly. And then some of the other services have smaller amounts. The Secret Service has 3. I wonder what they're doing. The Coast Guard also has 3. What it's being used for. So law enforcement is by far the highest utilization of these AI tools or prompts, and how they're using it. And then they've got administrative functions, so that 86 within sort of law enforcement category. There's some administrative, 53 followed there, and then transportation with 16. Law enforcement applications range from facial recognition at ports of entry and cargo ports to real-time language translation for officers in the field. So that's probably where you're seeing some of those use cases for like ICE and for border protection. 55 use cases are classified as high impact. And there's 49 that are presumed also to be high impact. These high impact cases trigger when they're used, and then they're used in their use cases trigger additional risk management reporting requirements. These include traveler identification verification, which is the facial biometrics, passenger and cargo security risk models, body scanners for concealed weapons. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure how that how they're using that. I assume that there's some the scanning and the AI is helping to recognize those things. Of these use cases that we see here, 72 involve personally identifiable information combing. So a significant reflect people-facing missions in immigration and border work there. So it's really an extensive list. It's kind of very impressive. And some of the things that I see in here. So we have, if once you get your hands on this, whether that's where we send it to you or you look it up yourself, they have different sections. They've got use case identifiers and summaries here. So some of these things is, a lot of these are translation tools, which we know that AI is actually a really effective tool for translations. You probably have experienced that as well. And what's interesting is they lay out the use case, the classification, how they have it. They also identify the problem it's intended to solve. And they lay out the expected benefits as well in columns. And even describe the systems, what the system's outputs should be. So there are 5 sections in total, 5 larger columns with these sub columns in them. The section 1 is use case identifier. Section 2 is use case summary. Section 3 is documentation. Section 4, data and code, which helps delineates what kind of code it is, as well as section 5, which is risk management. So it is very detailed, so we can see and we can get an idea here what they're doing. Just looking through some of these, a lot of these are pretty rudimentary, just items here. I see one is, walk through metal detectors used by TSA. This falls in the sort of transportation category, and computer vision. So this is the AI. I think this is sort of interesting. They have the AI classifications. Some of the things in here: natural language processing, computer vision, generative AI. I think those are the classical predictive machine learning is another classification. So this one that I'm looking at is the integrated defense security solutions here used by CBP. The system improves the screening process, their screening efficiency and accuracy of contraband detection. So for Customs and Border Patrol. Administrative functions as well here. So yeah, it's really quite extensive. They also have agentic AI classifications. Yeah, and so I think those are the main sections as well. But it is an extensive list worth being looked at. You can see they're retired. What's being deployed currently is probably where we need to be looking most significantly. Some of the things that they're using, again, I'll continue to go through these. An AI-assisted resume screening tool, which is used by ICE. That's part of their human resources department. So they're using they're using AI in many different ways across these departments, and they're going to continue to scale up these solutions. I think is the bottom line here, and how people should understand what's happening, and really why it's important to check out and figure out what they're using it for. We know that they're using it for screening, across all of their different applications. So I think the key systems here for us to think about: facial biometrics. I think is a really interesting one. I don't know why that keeps coming up for me. The real-time translations, these passive body scanning solutions. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to like chew on here and look into, but I think biggest thing is that what we know is the government is using AI at scale, and they're using it across their immigration systems. So it's like, how do you get ahead of these things? Partially it's about implementing your own if it's possible, and this sort of ties into what we talked about earlier. But to make sure that you're using the right tools, enterprise solutions, so that you're protecting your data at the same time. And so, yeah, it's a really eye-opening report. Again, with so many of these DHS bureaus opening up and identifying these. One of the things they use it for, I'm looking in here now. So Customs and Border Patrol is using this, as we talked about earlier, for sourcing and social media analysis. As well, I see here, this is an interesting one. Just below that is they've got a cryptocurrency analysis. So they're identifying the use case there is the identification of transactions that may have been made with a designated entity, company, or location that may be using crypto to circumvent traditional financial reporting. Help identify business and travelers who may be using cryptocurrency to conceal illicit transactions not reported with the U.S. financial system, which is interesting. But going back to Yeah, traveler self-search. So yeah, open source and social media analysis, I think is a really interesting one as well for people to think about. As we, I think just thinking about digital footprint is really important, especially for clients, for your clients as you're taking them on. They're using AI here to solve the problem of efficiently identifying potential threats and admissibility concerns by quickly analyzing um, open source social media data for security risks, um, presents information to a customs officer or analyst for manual review. So I guess they're flagging these things. They're not necessarily making those decisions, but they're flagging it for people to review. But again, we talked about how there are maybe some concerns about when something like this is flagged by an AI, people are sort of defaulting to that decision. They're not necessarily, we don't know. It's case by case. Um, yeah, for review, verification, and validation for violations of Title 8 and Title 19 or other laws that Customs and Border Protection is sworn to enforce. They do note here the output is not not to be the sole basis of the decision. So that's sort of where we're coming where things are sort of coming into clear. Sorry, I'm just reviewing this again. This is really interesting. I can get lost in this all day, and how the government is using AI with these things. And there's really too much that we could possibly go through today, but just a couple of the things there. So here's an interesting one on line 91. Facial recognition for national security. Again, this is also being used by customs. This is presumed high impact. And this is in pilot, so they're testing this, I would presume. And this is their justification for this. The AI utilizes publicly available images and performs a comparative search against other open source images to identify potential matches. Results produced by the AI can only be utilized for investigative leads and cannot be utilized as a determining factor for any enforcement action by customs personnel. Therefore, in instances where AI outputs assists in identifying leads, personnel must then use internal data prior to making any law enforcement action. There may be more there. Let's see. Enforcement decisions or actions. They do not serve as principal basis for high impact decisions or actions. This is one of these instances where they're using computer vision as well. And let's see. So the problem they're identifying. So what is the output that they're getting from this? So the output in these situations, the tool generates visually similar photos of individuals, which serve as preliminary leads for analysts to initiate further investigations. These outputs are not definitive identifications, but are intended to assist in narrowing investigative focus. No enforcement action is permitted based solely on these leads. Every potential identification must undergo comprehensive investigation and validation by analysts to ensure accuracy and adherence to established investigative protocols. This process ensures the responsible and ethical use of the technology. So their intended purpose as well, I'll just go over this last thing on this and then we'll call it here. The intended purpose of the facial recognition technologies is to assist U.S. Border Patrol agents in addressing the challenges of identifying individuals who may be linked to national security threats or transnational criminal organizations. This capability enhances their ability to develop investigative leads in cases where traditional identification methods are unavailable or insufficient. The benefits include improved efficiency in generating leads, enhanced support for national security and criminal investigations, and the ability to address complex threats more effectively. I think the reason that I am highlighting this one specifically that is in pilot, this facial recognition for national security, is partially because of what we talked about before, which is what AI um, these government agencies may be using. And the reason, we saw that was just last week, or the week prior, where there was the huge fallout from Anthropic making demands of how the government could use their AI, and that was specifically um, in the contract with the Department of Defense slash War, however you want to call it. Um, but we could probably understand that this could be applied further just outside of that department, and maybe into the DHS work as well. Um, and so just interesting, because this part of the things that Anthropic were not, the reason that they outlined and why they weren't going to follow through with that contract, or why they couldn't reach an agreement in the contract with the government in that instance, was because of surveillance issues. Autonomous weaponry is also one of the things that they identified, but the surveillance aspect, I think, is sort of what I'm keying in on here. And they made me did not feel comfortable having their their technology being used. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just sort of connecting some dots there, um, but yeah, that's the report. And I apologize again that I couldn't share my screen with you. I'm not really sure why that happened. So that I could show you this spreadsheet more specifically. But if you are interested, I'm happy to. We'll provide those things for you in an after action report that we put together, covering the topics that we talked about today. So we can send all of those things, in addition to other items that may be of interest, anything we talked about today. So we appreciate that. Again, thank you so much for taking the time. My name is Ian Schiller, and we appreciate you tuning in. This episode of Immigration Legal Tech Conversations was presented to you by Visa Law AI, for immigration intelligence you can trust. And so, yeah, very somewhat startling revelations, interesting insights, hopefully, as well, in how the government is using AI tools, and something to think about, and important distinctions for you to take away as well, and how you should be using AI, how your clients may be using AI, and how you can protect them as well in how they use it. So hopefully this was a good discussion today, and hopefully I brought you those good insights that you're able to take away as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And we will see you in 2 weeks. We're very excited. So be on the lookout for more information about that. Have a great day.